Action.
Well,
Episode 6. What are we on?
we are
Another
flying,
Friday?
Flying. We got
Cheers, my man.
Got good followers. Hello to everybody.
As you can see, we're using some new lighting here.
We are.
And that was Riley's brainchild
It was.
to do some nice softer lighting, really create a better mood, see if we can't.
I got a lot of feedback from the viewers saying that this light above me was just making my jaw look too chiseled. So I had
Too
to
sharp.
Too sharp. Yeah.
Too sharp. Yeah, I
hurt
hear
the
you.
camera.
Yeah.
Things.
What do you want to dive into first?
I think the idea of not over-engineering a quote
Mm-hmm.
through whatever tactic that may be, but the concept of stepping back from your quoting process and understanding what do I need to capture versus what am I doing that's just taking way too much time. And I think that flows into the idea of part complexity.
Yeah.
And if any of you are using part complexity, you understand, but for those of you that aren't aware of it, we'll just kind of chat about that to begin with.
It's such a delicate balance between putting the work in to build out your quoting system so that it can be near automated, right? Because what I understand for customers is that you really don't want to be not sending quotes out because it takes too long to quote,
Yeah.
right? And over-engineering a quote occurs when you are spending too much time on that quote to then not get it out, right?
Yes.
But you don't want to sacrifice not putting the information in that you need in order to send an accurate quote because you're going too fast, right?
Yeah,
and
we
that's
don't get
where
sandbagged.
exactly. And that's where this idea of defining all the different variables and even coming up with this idea of complexity is really interesting because you're able to break it out very simply at first into 3 levels and say, okay, if it has these features, we know that it's this level part, right? And that assigns a certain set of variables, which we've already spent time thinking about.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And it narrows in your thought process really quickly and allows you to get quotes accurately while not compromising quality.
Yes, and I think the biggest thing to think about there is your responsiveness to the customer, right? So if they send you a quote or an RFQ and you take 2 days, maybe 3 days to respond because you're going through every single thing from, so I have even heard people that go down to like actually getting the tool paths for the part.
It's remarkable.
Like outside service, whether it's anodizing material, like you can't wait on those things because that time period is so crucial for your response that as soon as you go past, the average win rate's only 30%, so let's say 10 quotes a day, you're only going to win 3. The minute you go past 24 hours, you're dropping that win percentage possibility in half again.
Yeah. Part of it that I'd be interested to hear what your conversation with customers has been about is that communication with outside vendors, because that's really where a lot of the time in building a quote can be lost.
I think there's like a crawl and a sprint to the way that you do it. You can do material pricing by taking basic materials that you use, 6061, 316, getting a cost per pound, which people are going to say, it fluctuates. Yes, it does, but not like one day it's not $7 and then the next day it's $11. If you look at a time series, like it's going to fluctuate maybe $2.15 to $3. So if you want to cost material on an average cost per pound, add a buffer. So add an extra $1.50 to $2. Add a buffer to your actual part itself, and then use just basic geometry and math, like the weight of the part, the shape of the part, and then the average cost per pound to get your material cost and not have to go get one for basic materials. If you're getting Inconels and titaniums and different plastics, I would say then yes, an outside service RFQ or an outside RFQ may be necessary. But if you really tighten up the relationships that you have with the individuals that you get materials from, that's also another good step.
One thing that's really interesting to me, building on this idea of part complexity, is people have never really had the opportunity to price different quantities differently. You know what I mean?
Well, because it takes so long by hand.
Exactly,
before, yeah.
exactly. And that's...
And ERPs just make it very linear and boring.
Yes, exactly. And that's something that I like. One of those conversations that I like to have with customers. For example, I was talking to a customer today, and he's like, "Can we change price by quantity?" I was like, "Yes, you absolutely can." Right, and that's one of the biggest power of the platform. Right, its biggest strength is having that flexibility to customize and price the way you want to price. Right, you're not constricted into one box. Right, you're able to really branch out and start capturing costs, which you've been thinking about perhaps for years.
Yeah.
Right. But I've never been able to do so before.
And a big thing that I would see in that instance is for like a programming operation, for example. It can be very quantity driven because if you are quoting less than 100, let's say, you're going to spend X amount of time. But if you're quoting, let's say, 1,500 to 2,500, you are probably going to spend a significant amount more time programming because you want to dial in your cycle time because you're creating thousands of these parts instead of 50. So by having a quantity-driven programming time, you are then able to actually capture the fact that you're probably going to spend 10x as long as you normally would, but people don't think about it that way.
Yeah.
They quote their normal programming time, and then later, when they eventually win the order, then they spend way more time programming, and then they go and they look at the cost analysis for that job, and they're like, where did I lose? A good way to step back from that and understand what you're trying to capture, if the conversation isn't going how you want it to go, or where you're steering in the direction that you think, is sit down, especially as a shop owner, and the next time you get an order, sit down and map out, so process map it. You just do it on a piece of paper or Excel, and count or track every step that happens post you winning an order. Okay, the order comes in via email, you got yourself a PO, you print it, okay, you look at it, you look to see if you have your material, you check your inventory list, you check your, maybe you have a Trello board or an Excel doc, you check that. All right, you build out your schedule and your router, you print all that. Okay, how long did that take? That could have taken an hour and a half. Okay, so who's doing that? That could be $50 an hour, let's say. So there's $50 or $50 or $64 or whatever it is. Next step, you go to, okay, it goes out to the shop floor. So who takes it out there? Where does it go? And then just track the order all the way through to the shipping department where it's wrapped individually, put in a box. How much time is there? Who's doing that? How much do you pay them? And then sit down and say, okay, each one of these is an operation that should be accounted for in the quoting process, right? So you can start to think about it that way, and then you can start to capture it writing B3O.
And the important thing is to do it over several different parts, right? Because there's a complexity element, but it's also, maybe on one part, this operation, which is on 30% of our jobs, wasn't captured, right? So simply doing that exercise one time won't be enough.
No,
right?
You definitely need
and it's important to do it several times, right? Because
and think about other parts that you've been working on that week or that month when you're doing it. Be like, okay, well, we did 6 jobs that required 2 extra deburring steps or an extra, a specialty packaging step.
Yeah.
Like, I kid you not, people don't think about the fact that specialty packaging takes so long. Individually bagging, especially for the additive guys out there. HP parts, the oils on your fingers will actually degrade the tolerance on the part itself. So A, you have to wear gloves, and B, you have to individually bag every part that leaves.
As a quick soundbite, I want to encourage any of our customers, if they ever find themselves in Boston, to come to our office and see us.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Rarely has it happened. I don't know how often people are actually traveling around and find themselves in Boston. But it really means a lot. We'd love to show you guys what our environment is, because we love visiting you, right? But if the opportunity ever came for everyone to visit us, we would say yes instantly.
We would be offended if you didn't stop by. No, but we also learn a lot. So every once in a while we have shop owners that are going to a game across from the garden. They'll come for the day, and they come in and they just give us feedback. Like we took customers out to lunch, and he just told us from top to bottom his process and where paperless fits in. And we learned a ton about how the platform was set up versus how we could manipulate a couple things just to make it that much better. And those inhuman conversations do a lot, I'd say.
Totally.
Especially when you can sit down with them and be like, all right, here's a part, go quote it.
Yeah.
We're all going to watch because we can't do that all the time.
That's really the test quotes, right? What's your actual process is something that I think is really valuable to get to as fast as possible, right? It's like, all right, we're talking about pricing. That's great. We're talking about pricing. You have questions about this. Let's just go see the brass tacks. Go build some parts. Go build some quotes. Put them in there. Go through what your normal process is, and really quickly you're going to see what pricing you feel is not captured and what should be captured. Because that's when the real interesting conversations come. Right? I think we might even take the opportunity to say thank you to all the customers that we've worked with thus far, because it's only now that we realize pricing is the first thing that has to happen. We need to get pricing down. We need to do the implementation, right? We need to do the pricing consultation and make sure that the pricing on paperless parts reflects what pricing you would like to capture, right? What costs you'd like to capture. And then from there, let's get the rest of the team involved. We'll do all the different training. We'll go through all the different features. The pricing comes first. That's what quoting is, right?
Absolutely.
So thank you to everyone for being very patient as we slowly realize that.
I know probably a lot of people have ERPs or other tools, but I'd love to hear feedback about the UI of the quoting experience. I know a lot of people that have been in the platform for a while love it because it's easy, but newer people, it can come off confusing, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh my gosh, this just makes so much more sense.
You and I spoke about it last week when I got back, right? software has to be customized around your unique attributes, characteristics, strategies, cadences, processes, whatever is unique about your business. Software has to mold around and fit you, right? And historically, manufacturing software has forced customers to conform to the infrastructure which they've built, right?
It's like, what are they, Cinderella's shoe or whatever?
Yeah.
Does this fit? Well, you don't have a choice.
Yes.
Go cram it on.
And now you do. And that's really part of the conversation, right? Is no, like, there is this rethinking element, right? And you now have a choice, right? You now can define explicitly what variables you want to adjust. And you can just create them out of nothing and they'll appear. That's what's really interesting.
Yeah, that part's super, super fun.
What we're finding now, which is really interesting, is how chat is unlocking the ability for so many other team members to join the platform.
To assist in the quoting process.
Exactly.
More efficiently.
And you find out where their role in that assembly line of quoting occurs, right? Maybe it's the salesperson reaching out to the CNC programmer or the machinist and saying, every time, what is the setup time and runtime on this, right?
Yeah.
And you see a stack of papers of quotes build up on their desk, right? And if they're not there for a day, business stops because who else is going to do it, right? And if that person's not there, maybe it goes to the other person and their load just got 2x, right? Whereas now they're all able to collaborate about the exact quote and about the exact geometry instantly.
Yeah. So I think the coolest, one of the first steps too, is let's get everybody involved in chat that's in that quoting process. And even if they're not in the quoting process, individuals that just want access to a CAD system that's browser based, so they can see the geometry of the part no matter where they are. So like in the process mapping part of onboarding, when you get to understand somebody's quoting process, it's fun to think about, okay, so what if I connected those two people? Like right now he says he emails this person and then he looks at it on a different desktop because that's the only one that has SolidWorks, and then he emails him back and he says, okay, here. But what if you just gave them both a login and he said at person XYZ, what do you think? And he's like, here you go. We just cut out 4 steps.
Yeah.
So that part is going to be really interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Episode 6 of the weekly. Signing off. Overall, pretty solid conversation.
I got a feeling we'll keep this lighting. This lighting is very nice.
It is a good one. Let us know if this makes my
let us
job
know your
a
thoughts.
little bit softer maybe this
Have
time.
a great weekend, you guys.
Cheers.
Cheers.